The day has come that I was dreading for quite some time. Earlier today, Bernie Sanders endorsed Hillary Clinton at a rally in New Hampshire. Now, he had this to say, quote, "Secretary Clinton has won the Democratic nominating process, and I congratulate her for that. She will be the Democratic nominee for president, and I intend to do everything I can to make certain she will be the next president of the United States. I've come here today not to talk about the past, but to focus on the future. That future will be shaped more by what happens on November 8th in voting booths across our nation than by any other event in the world. I've come to make it as clear as possible as to why I am endorsing Hillary Clinton and why she must become our next president." Quote, "During the last year, I had the extraordinary opportunity to speak to more than 1.4 million Americans at rallies in almost every state in this country. I was also able to meet with many thousands of other people at smaller gatherings. And the profound lesson that I've learned from all that is that this campaign is not really about Hillary Clinton or Donald Trump or Bernie Sanders or any other candidate who sought the presidency. This campaign is about the needs of the American people and addressing the very serious crises that we face. And there's no doubt in my mind, as we head into November, Hillary Clinton is far and away the best candidate to do that." Now, notice, this campaign isn't about Hillary Clinton or Bernie Sanders. Also, Hillary Clinton is far and away the best candidate to, take on the crises that the American people face. Well, there's only two candidates. There's Hillary Clinton and there's Donald Trump. Do you think Donald Trump is going to do anything good? No, of course not. I'll get into that. So as I said, I've got a lot of thoughts about this. Now, first off, I understand that a lot of people are angry, sad, and upset. I understand. I'm angry, sad, and upset too. And I was not happy watching this endorsement. In fact, I was a little surprised that this endorsement came so soon. I actually thought that it was going to be a little bit later, possibly after the convention or during the convention. So, as I said, I was quite surprised to hear that he decided to endorse her today. Very interesting timing. But there's a couple of things that at least I understand that I want to share with you guys about this. Well, number one, this is Bernie Sanders doing what he said he was always going to do. He said he was going to back the eventual Democratic nominee against whoever the Republicans put up. Well, the Republicans put up a fascist. Great. So, well, what are you going to do? You're going to back the Democratic candidate against the fascist. At least that's what he's thinking. Now, that Republican happens to be Donald Trump, as I said, and he could very well win. The latest poll has him 3 points behind Hillary Clinton. That's not good. Hillary Clinton is not a good candidate. And she's actually lucky that Donald Trump is a supreme idiot and doesn't know how to run a campaign, doesn't know how to raise money, doesn't know how to do any of this stuff that you actually need to have a campaign, and yet he's almost doing as well as Hillary Clinton. That is dangerous. Not only is the polling dangerous, that if he gets into office, he would be an absolute major disaster. At least Hillary Clinton, we could count on no change, establishment politics, which I guess is a little bit better than burning down the house with you inside. I understand the need to burn down the establishment, but not while you're inside. That would be a disaster. Anyway, now maybe Hillary Clinton, because of Bernie Sanders, will negotiate from a stronger position on healthcare and minimum wage. And her college plan, while not as progressive as we want, it certainly beats Donald Trump's plan. Now, what is Donald Trump's plan? Well, Donald Trump's plan is to eliminate the minimum wage, roll back the Affordable Care Act, which would essentially cut off healthcare for millions, and leads some to dying for lack of healthcare. Kind of what we had before. Well, that's not a good thing. At least Hillary Clinton wants to keep the ACA around and expand it to people who are, give Medicare to people who are 55 or older. And I know that doesn't really help me, right? Doesn't help me, doesn't help a lot of us younger people. And that sucks. College plan might, if she decides to stick by it. Now, we know Hillary Clinton does what's politically expedient. Well, this might be politically expedient for her to do. There is that possibility. Why? Because people in power want to retain that power. How do you retain that power? By getting people to vote for you, essentially. So, there is a chance that she might, possibly, it's a small chance, I know, but she might at least keep some of her promises. And even if she doesn't, even if she goes back to her original plans, they're still better than what Donald Trump has to offer. As I said, we've got a choice between two different shit sandwiches. One has some extra stuff on it. The other is just straight up shit. What are you going to choose? And look, you don't have to choose between Donald Trump or Hillary Clinton. You could choose Jill Stein, and that's fine. You could choose Gary Johnson. I would definitely disagree with that, because I agree with about half of what Gary Johnson has to say. The other stuff, the economic stuff, is batshit crazy. He wants to get rid of all social programs. No food stamps, no Medicaid, no ACA, no Medicare. Get rid of all of that. Well, that's batshit insane. That's, on those policies, those might actually be worse than Trump, even though you'll get some pot and we won't go into a war. So, Jill Stein, if you want to go for Jill Stein, that's fine. You can do that. And if you want to build a progressive movement out of Jill Stein, that's great. I'd like to see a progressive movement out of somewhere. Now, I think, personally, that it might be better to take over the Democratic Party. But if there's a big enough movement over to Jill Stein, well, that would change my mind. If we see that she had the Green Party has a possibility of actually winning, which I don't think it does, but if there is some proof of that, I'd be more than happy to back her. But right now, I'm not backing anybody. This is a no-win situation for me. I'm not going to back Hillary Clinton. Certainly not going to back Donald Trump. Jill Stein, maybe, if she has a possibility of winning. Now, does that mean I'm going to stay home? No. I could vote against Trump. I don't know. What I do know is that Hillary Clinton still hasn't earned my vote yet, and the Bernie Sanders endorsement really doesn't change my mind all that much about supporting Hillary Clinton. The most that she can hope for is that enough Bernie Sanders supporters understand what a danger Donald Trump would be and hold their nose. As I said, I'm not quite there, and I'm sure a lot of you aren't there yet either. But at the end of the day, we got to do what's best for the Supreme Court. And that is, look, if we get, a center-left judge instead of a right-wing crazy, well, I guess we can call that a little victory. But anyway, Bernie Sanders, why he did this is that he's not a stupid man. Bernie Sanders is a smart man, and he's a politician. He looks at the fact that Trump would do everything he could to erase all the progress that we've had. At least with Hillary, as I said, she might maybe listen to us. Maybe. But look, Hillary is better than Trump at the end of the day. And so is Jill Stein. And as I said, if you want to go to Jill Stein, that's up to you. For me, as I said, I want to take over the Democratic Party because I want their infrastructure. I don't want the neoliberal Democrats. I want to kick them out. No more neoliberal Democrats. Kick them out of the Democratic Party. Make them form a third party instead of us having to do it. We're the rightful owners of the Democratic Party. Progressives are the rightful owners of this party. And maybe it's time that we take it back. Kick out the lobbyists, man. Kick out the corporate bundlers. Kick out all the establishment inside that party and take it for ourselves. That's what we need to do. And you might want to do something different, and as I've said, that's fine. But I'm going to follow what Bernie Sanders is laying out. A takeover of the Democratic Party from the left. And you want to call me a Tea Party of the left? That's awesome. You know why? Because they actually had some electoral success and policy success. We need that. Because after all, this whole thing is about the policies. Now I have another thing that I want to address. Is that calling Bernie a sellout. You know that makes no sense, right? Oh, Bernie's a sellout. Anybody who decides to vote against Donald Trump, that's a sellout. No, I would say that voting for Donald Trump is a sellout. a sellout of progressive principles. You can't honestly vote for Donald Trump, whose policies are the diametric opposite. They're diametrically opposed to each other, Bernie Sanders and Donald Trump, on policies. You can't honor Bernie Sanders and honor the policies if you vote for Donald Trump. That's ridiculous. And it makes no sense to call Bernie Sanders a sellout just because he endorsed Hillary Clinton. Look, if you listen to this speech, it sounded like his standard stump speech, but with Bernie Sanders just including Hillary Clinton in it. You honestly think that somebody who fought for these same policies for 40 years will give up that fight just because he's done what every other person who's run against another person has done and lost? Really? Of course not. He's going to help continue fighting for those policies. And in his mind, the best way to do it is to not get Trump elected. He's not turning his back on those policies, right? He's taking the long game. And look, even if you are convinced that he's a sellout and that he's a shill for Hillary, okay, that's fine. This campaign was never about Bernie Sanders. This was about the policies. And I think we should continue to fight for those policies because that's what matters. That's what Sanders ran on. That's what we all jumped on. That's why we all supported Bernie Sanders. And if you're not gonna keep fighting for those policies, then maybe you backed Bernie Sanders for the wrong reasons. And that brings me to giving up. Look, throwing up your hands and giving up the fight for progressive policies is exactly what Hillary Clinton and the establishment want you to do. That's what they think is going to happen. Well, now that we have Bernie Sanders' endorsement, we're going to get all those votes, and then we don't have to do anything progressive. Because all these people are going to give up, they're going to go home. And then they're not going to fight for these. They want us to go away, they want us to disappear. They want the calls for universal health care and free college and a living wage to disappear. They don't want us to hold her accountable. Well, that's not going to happen. Especially if we continue to push our politicians to do those progressive things and actually elect real progressives to office. Look, even if Bernie Sanders had won, do you think we were going to get those policies all by ourselves anyway? No, of course not. Bernie Sanders admitted that even if he did win and became president, that he can't just do these policies on his own. It would need massive progressive change in the Democratic Party. His whole plan was to become the head of the Democratic Party and then take it over. Well, we don't need Bernie Sanders to take over that party. We don't need a president. This is far beyond presidential politics. Far beyond. And if you don't see that, then you might have been backing Bernie Sanders for the wrong reason. We've got to continue pushing for these policies. And anyone who thinks that Bernie Sanders could have done any of this stuff doesn't understand politics. This is why we have to fight to elect progressives on the local and state level. Political revolutions do not start at the top, they start at the bottom. And this is why I have a tough time supporting the Green Party. Don't get me wrong, I love their policies. But how many Greens hold lower office? How much support for her policies would she have in Congress? I'm willing to vote for her, but she's got to have that party infrastructure. She's got to have that ability to also get some things done, to get support. And I don't know how much support she has. You've got to start from the bottom. You've got to be in this for the long haul because that's what political revolutions are about. And the establishment, look, they think they're going to win today, right? They think they've won. And if you walk away and don't keep fighting for these policies, that's exactly what's going to happen. They're going to win. Like Bernie's campaign may be over, but the fight for progressive priorities needs to continue. And it's going to be a long fight. It's not going to be easy. And it's probably not going to have immediate results. But anything worth fighting for does not come easy. And that is where we are at. The revolution is not over. It's only changed shape. Now we're doing something different. And that's fine because you know what? at the end of the day, I'm still proud to be fighting for it. Because after all, it's never been about the person. It's always been about the policies and a progressive America. And I will never, ever, ever stop fighting for that.